All right. Welcome back to Blue by 90. I'm Justin, joined by Tanner today. And we've got another special guest coming to you, tight end Marlin Klein for the Michigan Wolverines. Marlin, appreciate you joining, man. How you doing today?
I'm good. Appreciate y'all for having me, man.
Of course, man. Of course. It is, we're going into, is this your senior year, super senior year? Where are we at right now?
I'm going into my senior year. Not that old.
You, we kind of joked. We just had Derek Moore on. I've talked to like Brady and Peyton O'Leary and Davis Warren a couple times. Just like you guys are the top dogs now. Is that a
Yeah,
weird feeling?
kind of. Honestly, I feel like the time just flew by. Like coming in and graduating in 2022, coming in, learning from the older guys and being around guys like Joel Honigford, Carter Seltzer, Luke Schoolmaker. Those were kind of the grandddads of the team back then. And
Well,
I
they
feel like
literally were like 20.
they were.
They had that extra year. You don't get that COVID year. I think we're
Had
finally
a couple
phasing
extra
out
years.
of that, right?
But yeah, so to really realize it's kind of us now. It's kind of crazy. Obviously, with the incoming freshmen coming in and them working out with us now. Some of them are like 17, 18-year-old kids that should be still in high school. Makes you feel old.
It does for sure. Shout out Joel too. He was with us from the beginning, starting Pump It Up. We did the whole thing.
Yeah.
So Carter too, what a guy. Scooney just dominating in the NFL too.
Yeah.
Love to see it. So yeah, you guys have had a good run with tight ends. Obviously,
Oh, absolutely.
Barner with the Seahawks now. Colston's gonna go in the first round here next year. So
Yeah.
really exciting to see, just how good it's all the success that this tight end room has had over the past few years. But for you had one of the most unique journeys to make it to Michigan specifically, but just American football in general, right? So can you bring us back to your days growing up, making it to Atlanta, and how you made it to Ann Arbor?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, back then when I was born, so in '02 must have been, '02 or '03, the NFL Europe was still a thing. And actually they had a team back home in my city, the Cologne Centurions. And my dad just knew some of those guys. So he took me to, a game or two. And obviously I can't really remember that. But yeah, so after a couple of years, that must have been 2017, I really just wanted to do something else. Everybody played soccer. That's what I did. Played soccer for like 12 years or so. That's kind of what you do. You go to school, play soccer, go back home, hang out with the family. But yeah, I just wanted to be different.
Sorry, in what city in Germany?
Cologne.
Cologne. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So just growing up there, having four cousins that are kind of my age, so we all just grew up together, played soccer on the same teams. Our uncles were our coaches. It was sweet. But I got to a point where I just wanted to be different. And luckily my dad knew some of the coaches at the Cologne Crocodiles, which is like the local team in my city. So, did a whole tryout thing and everything, and they were happy to have me and invited me for another, to be one of their players for that season. So I started playing football and quickly realized, I could be pretty good at that.
Well,
it's all that's get out there.
Soccer player ever, right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. So they didn't really know where to put me on the field. We put him in a goal, then we put him a striker or whatever. But yeah, so then when that time came around, one of my coaches knew Bjorn Warner, who is from Berlin, Germany, went to a prep school out in Massachusetts, I think, went to Florida State, won like defensive player of the year, and got drafted to the Colts in the first round. So when he was done playing, he started his organization called Gridiron Imports, which pretty much helps kids, that have the desire to play high school sports, really, help them with the whole process, finding the school, getting the visa, getting all these appointments and paperwork and all that stuff. And him and Chris Adamson, who is his work partner, they did a really great job with me and getting me to Raven Gap, which is in the middle of nowhere in Georgia, like the most country part of Georgia you could ever imagine. So a kid that really grew up in one of the biggest cities in Europe,
right.
To go to 500 people town, it was a culture shock for sure. just seeing how big the country was, and on the map, like me and my parents were talking about, Atlanta was right here, Raven Gap was right here. Sweet, 25 minutes. Nope. That was about a 3-hour drive from Atlanta. So that was a culture shock for me for sure. Moving there in 2019 and not speaking a single word of English. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I just did it. I moved, hopped on that plane and let's ride. It's just been one of the biggest blessings.
Wait, so you learned English in 2019?
Yep.
You have no accent. I mean, you can tell, but it's impressive.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. We speak English, as our native language, and you probably speak it better than us, man.
Wait, can you, Tanner? Sorry, before you ask that question, you gotta say something in German for us. Say, "I'm a national champion."
Ich bin Nationalsieger.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Got some
That's probably the first thing I always, somebody finds out I'm not from here, oh, he's German. Say
how long does it take them? Like, do they pick up on it quickly, or does it like take a few, conversations for them to kind of,
I think, there's some words that I say where they're like, hold up, you might not be from here, or really just when they ask me about, where I'm from or kind of about my journey, they just find out that way. But, trying to fly under the radar and, not let everybody know.
You do a great job, man. I mean, obviously we know we're into Michigan football and know your background and when you were recruited and stuff. But well, one thing I wanted to say just real quick on the Centurions, Cliff Kingsbury is a former Centurion. I don't know if you ever got to see him play.
Maybe.
I was like, I looked through on the Wikipedia. That was like the only guy I recognized. So
yeah.
Marlon, I was going to ask you, like, coming into Michigan. I mean, I know Germany's a large country, but have you had a chance to connect with the Wagner brothers at all? Playing Michigan, coming from Germany to Ann Arbor. Like, if you had a chance, did you know them before? Or were you able to get connected, after you started being recruited by Michigan?
Yeah. So I actually hadn't talked to them before I got here, but just kind of once I committed, really following Michigan, and kind of doing my research on that, just seeing two guys that are from my country, and then obviously Julius Welchov, who also played here. I was like, man, that's sweet. So, but yeah, so I didn't meet him till it must have been at the end of my freshman year, maybe. It must have been a Sunday morning. Walked into both of them at Frank's restaurant eating breakfast. I might have seen him the night before.
Maybe,
maybe. Never know.
Who knows?
But yeah, so just I was down there in the bathroom and I was like, wait, hold up, I know you. I started speaking German to him, and he was like, oh, hold up. What's going on? So that was a funny first, interaction. But yeah, and then obviously going back to the national championship, celebrating on that field at NRG Stadium down in Houston, and seeing those two guys and taking a picture with them. And, it's probably still one of my favorite pictures from that night. But yeah, those are great. I think, they represent our country really well here in the States and, doing their thing down in Orlando now.
For sure. I feel like I can even hear the accent coming out as you're talking about Germans. So, no, it is kind of funny because before, like, as I got to know you, I was like, okay, wait, you're from Germany or Atlanta or where are you from? Because honest to God, you did not have the accent right away. So, got to give you props again on that for English and becoming accustomed to things here. Before we move on to life in the States and how you got to Ann Arbor and everything, what was the biggest culture shock of, like, what was the thing that when you came to America, you're like, this makes no sense. Why do you guys do this? Whether it's like a food or something like that.
Well, I don't know. There were a lot of things. Obviously, like the biggest one for me, like when I first moved here, was like I came from a huge city,
right?
And just moving to the Georgia mountains, where there's not there's like kind of like a one stoplight kind of town. That was probably the biggest shock for me. And then obviously you can go into food. Still saying German food is better. A lot of fried food. But just the people, I think one thing that I will give the U.S., I love it here. Obviously, like, I wouldn't be here if I didn't love it here. Planning on staying here for the rest of my life, and hopefully moving the family over here at some point. But just the people here, I think it doesn't matter like where you go. I think everybody's really nice and kind of welcomes you. And it was never like, oh, you're from Germany, like you're different, I don't want to talk to you. People were always like interested and welcoming, and I think that made a huge difference for me and made it so much easier.
I think that's just out of, I mean, you probably attest to this. I feel like Ann Arbor is a very welcoming
For sure.
place, right? I think
Yeah.
it's a melting pot of a lot of different folks from different backgrounds and different, creeds and religions and all those sorts of things. So that's awesome to hear, though, because is that something you felt when you came here to visit? Like, did you feel a little bit more
Yeah.
at the University of Michigan in the Ann Arbor area than maybe some other places that you visited?
Yeah, obviously, living down south, I visited, some of those schools down there in the SEC. And my first time coming up here must have been after my sophomore year or right before my junior year in high school. It was like I left Ann Arbor and I called my parents. I was like, that's where I'm going. Like, it reminds me of home. Like, the people are nice. Like, seems like, the weather is great, it gets cold, it's warm, whatever. That's where I'm going.
Most people from Atlanta would not say, yeah, the weather in Michigan is great.
Yeah.
Coming from Germany, it's
He's just like, the snow, let's ride.
Yeah.
I love it.
So when I called my parents, they were like, oh, really? That was quick, because I had only taken a couple of visits before that, like to Georgia and stuff. But yeah, so then before my junior season, I called Coach Harbaugh actually, and Coach Moore, and I was like, I'm committed, I'm coming. I loved it. So that was great. It was kind of first love, first sight thing for me. So,
I like
awesome.
that. I mean, when you know, right? And I feel like the recruiting now, I mean, recruiting is way different now than even when you were, recruiting.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I don't know that anybody was throwing bags of money at you at that time.
And not at all.
Unfortunately not, Roger.
Yeah. I mean, some of those guys that you see now coming out of high school, and but I'm happy for them. They deserve it, and so.
Hey, at least you got you're able to make money now, right? I mean, I think we work around the international issues and all that stuff too. So at least that is the case, rather than like some of those guys like Joel or whoever that's their last year's 2021. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, I made $0. I missed it by a year. Like, you got
right.
I
feel like now, like, everybody, if you're on a team, you're making money. I feel like
so, yeah.
I mean, you drop by Schembeckler sometimes. You're like, wow, is this like a car auction? What's going on over there?
So, actually, a question I have for you in that is, especially, I think you're a unique situation to this where, you were part of the team when NIL wasn't like a focal point of college football. It was guys playing, quote unquote, for the love of the game, right? And now with it changing and flipping so drastically on its head, where NIL is like the only thing that's talked about in college football, how do you guys continue to stay as a team and not make that as have that become a distraction or, arguments with who's making more money and all that?
Yeah. I think so many people have asked me that question, like even my parents back home, like, how is it, like, what has changed? And I feel like coming in 2022, when we had guys like JJ McCarthy, Mikey Sanders still, Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, all those guys, to like now the Bryce Underwoods and whoever you want to name, I think I kind of lived through the whole, like, nobody was really making money to now everybody's rich. You know what I mean? And I think it's just really interesting to see, and, talking to some of my former high school teammates and friends that I know that, played at other schools in the SEC, Big Ten, wherever it is, you kind of hear about those problems. I know, stop working as hard as I used to because I'm getting paid this amount, like I got my job. But I think I haven't seen that at Michigan at all. And I think that's, credit to Coach Harbaugh, Moore, Coach Poggi, like establishing that, that culture at Michigan. And I think that's, what got us to those Big Ten championships, those wins against the team down south, national championship, Rose Bowl wins, and all that stuff. I think the culture just doesn't change, and I think that's the main reason why we don't have those problems. Oh, I got more money than you. Like, you can't tell me anything. Some guys are making more money than the coaches, and both parties know that. But like, nobody talks about it here.
Right.
Nobody talks about money. Nobody talks about how much they're making. Everybody's kind of happy where they are, and what they get, and what their locker partners get. So everybody's kind of happy for each other, to be honest.
Marlon, do you, with the change that's kind of happened, do you, the culture has been talked about as something that's been so important to this program over the last number of years. And I think it has been a big differentiator in winning a lot of these big games and being able to go into these tough environments in the way that you guys are able to go and get wins. Do you find when you have a new class of freshmen or transfers coming in, that is it something that's organic, or do you feel that you kind of are conscious of it to make sure that that culture doesn't get off the rails? Like, what is that? Can you pinpoint it? Is it something that just happens?
I think obviously all those guys take visits, right? They some of those guys, like, I think they're kind of strategic with it. The recruiting department, getting those guys on official visits, unofficial visits, when we're working out, when we're practicing. So like, you're around it, like, you see it, you feel it. And I think that's one of those things, whoever decides to come play at the University of Michigan, they know what it's about. And, they've seen it before. Maybe they haven't lived it yet, but they've seen it. And I think all the freshmen that just came in, the transfers, like, they've been so great about adjusting to the culture. Because obviously everybody's coming, from different parts of the country, different backgrounds, some of the guys were the number one player in the country. Some of the guys are, a 3-star receiver or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you get to Michigan, you get on campus, like, none of that matters. And I think that's one of the things at Michigan, like, nobody cares about, what your rating was, how much money you're getting. Like, you're still working out at 6 a.m. Like, you're doing the same thing, and, you have the same responsibilities. And I think that's just one of the things that they see on their visits. And I think it's just pretty easy adjustment if you see 100 other dudes doing, what they're supposed to do.
I love that answer, and I'm glad that it's that way and not some manufactured thing.
Yeah.
Right? I think, not to take a full shot at that team down south, but sometimes some of the stuff that they do, obviously it worked out for them with winning a national championship. They're super talented, all that, but some things that some other programs seem manufactured. But I do love that at Michigan, it feels like it is organic. It's player led. I think that was the difference in, when Coach Harbaugh was leading things in 2023 specifically, right? It was Mikey Sanderstill and Donovan Edwards and JJ and Blake.
Yeah.
Those guys were leading the way and setting the example. And now I think that you guys have seemed to just continue that on. You know what it takes to set that standard. You've seen it happen and seen, it done at the highest level in order to win. Now it's your turn as the senior and the big dogs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things my high school coach, always kind of, told us, the captains of my high school team back then, like, coaches can lead all they want. Like, the staff can lead all they want. Like, they're getting paid to do that. Like, that's their job. Like, but at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. Like, if you're always being told what to do, like, once you see that switch happen, once the top dogs, like, on your team start leading, like, that's when your team is going to take it to a whole nother level. And, I saw that in my high school career. Like, we went from getting beat by 60 to the next year or the next 2 years playing the state championship. Now, I think that's really what happened here in, 2019, 2020, 21, and then finally getting that Big Ten championship, seeing guys like Chris Jenkins, Blake Horn, DJ Turner, all those guys really, taking the team in their hands.
I love it. And then, to fast forward now to the offseason of 2024 going into 2025, what we've seen from you guys while you're doing your workouts, offseason practices, all that stuff, is wearing these shirts that say team over me, right?
Yep.
Which is pretty self-explanatory. I know you don't have to go into exactly what that means and everything, but what is the purpose of making sure that is right on your chest or your back, every time that you guys work out?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that's one of the things that Coach Moore, set in stone, like from the first day he got the job. Like, hey, you see, you've been a Chemek Law, like you see it all over the building. The team. Like that's what Michigan is. That's a brand of Michigan. That's a block in. That's the culture of Michigan. This university, this football program, and I think for us now starting to wear those shirts, it's just a constant reminder. Me looking at you, hey, team over me. Oh, what does that really mean? Well, it doesn't really matter like what your stats are. Like it doesn't really matter if I'm gonna have 2 catches this year or if I have 50 plus catches. Like as long as we win and beat the team down south, like I'm good. I'm happy, and I get what I want. And I think us starting to do that now with those incoming freshmen coming in, and guys from other schools as transfers, those cultures probably haven't been like that. Where it was about the team and not themselves. So us starting to wear those shirts is really just a constant reminder, and it makes you think, what am I willing to do for my brother right next to me? Because in the fourth quarter against, the team down south, down in Columbus, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's not about you. It's about, what are you willing to do for your team to get that win, not for you to get a stat and go to the NFL and make a bunch of money. Because, you've seen it last year. We won a national championship, and we sent 300 players to the NFL. You know what I mean? Like it will just come with that. But yeah, that can't be the main thing. So I think it's just a constant reminder, and wearing those shirts, and obviously the playoff logo in the back. So that's what we're looking forward to.
And one thing I wanted to jump in there that just shows it. I mean, want to give a shout out to Max Bredesen again, because when you're talking about in that fourth quarter, against that team down south and doing whatever it takes, like Max Bredesen never gets the ball. Rarely does he get the ball, right? But when he's making a block for Kalel Mullings and going crazy afterwards, he's going ballistic, right? Celebrating because he didn't make the play, right? Like he didn't, his name doesn't come across the board, but he did his job in order for the team to score, in order for the team to win the game. I feel like that type of play, that type of guy is exactly what you're describing here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really, obviously shout out to Max, like best fullback in the country. He's going to have a long NFL career, obviously. But just for him to come back and, probably being a 2-time captain at the University of Michigan, his brother having played here and all that stuff, like just the mentality that he brings to the game, and everybody respects that. Every freshman knows like what that guy is about, and just having him, Max Bredesen is Michigan culture. He's lived it. When his brothers played here, and just getting to know him over the past 3 years. Being in the paint with them. When we're down or in the fourth quarter, at Ohio State, like that's just been a blessing. Learning from a guy like that, being around a guy like that each and every single day. But yeah, him coming back is just huge for his team. And everybody respects like that he's starting to get his flowers. So I think one of those things that Coach Kasula, our tight ends coach, like always talks about, it's even when Coastal was here, like that's the fans will remember the touchdowns you catch, how many balls you catch, how many yards you had that year, like but the guys that are in the building, the guys that you play with, like they'll remember those plays where you put a dude on his back, at the end of the game, to spring a 60-yard run for Khalil to get a win against USC or, against Ohio State, like in those important games. And that's what those guys, will remember you for. Like they won't really care about, your touchdowns, like so.
That puts it in a good perspective there. I love it.
Yeah, Marlon, you mentioned earlier some of the guys that you were in the tight end room with when you were a freshman and a sophomore. How often do you keep in touch with those guys? And, guys like we mentioned AJ Barner with the Seahawks, and now obviously Colson's going to the NFL. I mean, if you talk to those guys, you keep in touch with them. Do you guys have like a group chat, right? Like, are they helping you and get to where you want to be in the NFL at some point? Like, what are those kind of conversations like, and what have they helped you, get better at since you've been at Michigan?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ever since stepping foot on campus, me and Colson always talked about, us coming in together and, being around guys like Joel Honeyford, Eric All, Luke Schoolmaker, Carter Seltzer, Matthew Hebner, AJ Barner last year, like that was just a blessing for us, you know. And we, probably didn't know it at that time, but looking back at it, like the amount of stuff that we were able to learn from those guys, because they had been in the pain, they went through it, they grinded, they did what Michigan needed them to do, getting back to that level, the Michigan level, the expectation that everybody has for Michigan football. But yeah, we still have group chats with, all the older guys. Obviously, AJ wasn't here with all those older guys. But yeah, I mean, he reaches out to us, after an important win, or we'll talk to him every now and then, how his season was going, how our season was going. And Joel reaching out made my day the other week. He reached out to us, me and Colston, and, just checking in, talking to us about what he's been up to. Obviously, I hadn't talked to him for a couple months. But yeah, so still keeping up with everybody, like talking to Hibby, who's out of SMU doing his thing. Eric, obviously, he transferred his last year, but him being in the NFL. So, all those guys have that experience, going through the same stuff. So just having those guys as a resource each and every single day has just been a blessing for all of us.
I love it, man. I do think that it is cool just to see, like, or at least for you guys to be able to say, like, yeah, man, if you come to Michigan and you're in this tight end room, like, you're going to see success, right? And even for you, somebody who hasn't had, the 30 catch year, or, you're sitting behind Colston Loveland, right? Which is a tough position for you to be in, because he's obviously really good, really talented dude. But still, you have your chance now, to make your impact here in 2025. You've already made a hell of an impact already, but even taking it to a next level here. So, excuse me, for you guys, with Chip Lindsey coming in and this offense, what are you looking to? What's the identity of Michigan football in the Michigan offense going to be here in 2025?
Yeah, I think Michigan football is still we're going to out-physical you. We're going to run the ball as hard as we can. We're going to block as hard as we can to open up the pass game. And, I think we're going to be, or I know we're going to be more creative with the pass game. We have new weapons, for the receiver position. Got a great running back coming in. Obviously Jordan Marshall, Ben Hall, like we still have those guys. So, and then quarterback, we'll see who we have standing back there, but I'll trust the coaching staff to make that decision. That's not
I'm sure
really not my.
I'm sure a lot of people will be talking about it no matter what, right? So you guys, I'm sure how you're thinking, all right, I'm gonna put my head down. Whoever's throwing me the ball, I'm gonna catch it, right?
Yeah. That's how I look at it. And Mikey Keene coming in, love that dude. Like all he does is work. Bryce coming in, as humble as you could imagine. And some people may say like he doesn't have to. He's getting paid whatever X amount. He's
if I was an 18-year-old with as much money as he has, I'd probably be a terrible human being and an asshole. So props to him for being that type of guy.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, like I'm not saying that to make him look good, make Michigan look good. Like I'm giving you the honest opinion on him. Like when he got here, I met him, and 2 days later, he texted me at like 8:00 at night. Hey, let's get some work. I was like, oh, all right, I like that. And that's how JJ was. JJ was always looking to get the team together, get the offense together, get the guys together, work. And I guess it worked out for Niner. He's doing all right up in Minnesota. So just excited, to really whoever. And obviously not forget about Jaden Davis. He's a dark horse. Some people might have forgotten about him, and obviously Davis Warren, we still have him. He's battling through that injury right now, but he'll be back stronger than ever. So it's gonna be great.
it's gonna be good to have some competition in that room, and
Oh, yeah.
have some guys willing to compete. I mean, we know what Davis can do. I mean, Davis, I think, got a lot of unfair criticism. He went into the shoe, man, got a W, right?
Mhm.
Good, bad, or ugly, whatever you want to say about that
You got it done.
game, you guys got it done, right? You made huge plays, huge catches on third downs. He made huge plays, huge throws. Kind of I got fired up there about that Michigan Ohio State. I was a little excited, man. Marlon, I wanted to just, because we've had this conversation, we've had now you on the podcast. We talked to Derek Moore. Derek said the same thing. Derek said that Bryce is in my workout group. I see him. He's putting in work. We talked with Gio and Zavada. We did a thing with them a couple weeks ago. And I don't know how much credence you take on what kickers say. But I know you're sorry.
It's about he's winning us some games, man.
Absolutely.
Dog.
But both those guys said the same thing. So it just from like the fan perspective, it's got to be like, and for the player perspective, like what's gonna happen when he comes in? He's all this hype and just put his head down and go to work. And that's like 4 different people independently that have been like, no, yeah, he's putting in the work. He's doing the things you need to do to be good. And so I think that's got to be exciting to hear for Michigan fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And I honestly and I'm not saying that make him look good, make Michigan look good, make us look good. We're really just saying that for Michigan fans not to worry. Like that's who he is. That's the family he came from. And I think there's still some type of pride, obviously, leaving LSU and coming to us, being the hometown hero. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Like if you don't perform, like it doesn't matter. Like all that money, all the cars, like all the hype, like none of that matters. But yeah, just seeing him, and that's not just for me. That's for all the other freshmen coming in, for the transfers coming in. But most importantly, for the team that was here last year, to see that player come in, obviously everybody's excited for him. I mean, that's not a huge surprise. Like everybody was excited for him to be in the building now. But for everybody to see, hey, like, the kid talks to everybody. He eats lunch with the kickers. Like it doesn't matter who he's around. Like he's the same dude day in, day out, works his butt off. And I'm just super excited for him, to learn and get on the field as soon as possible.
So that's why Zavada was saying so many nice things about him. Amazing.
Yeah, I saw him having lunch together with him.
It's all coming together.
Also, shout out to Zavada, the nicest kid ever.
Nicest kid ever.
Like
you're showing us his whoop stats of like his heart rate during the Ohio State game. It was great content.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was spiked to about 1 million right before he kicked it and had, flatline. So
yeah.
Pretty
got it done. So
yeah,
got the dough.
What about the defense? That obviously you've got a ton of guys that are going to be in the NFL. You've got possibly 2 top 10 picks, right? When Mason and Will, and then KG's going to be right behind them. It looks like.
Yep.
So losing a ton, but you've got a bunch of guys coming back. We talked about Derek Moore, Ernest Hausman. You've got a lot of these guys that are coming back that we're all excited about. And then some young guys that are going to have a new chance too. So I know you guys haven't gone, against them much yet at this point in the year in mid-February, but what do you see from those guys leading up to 2025?
Yeah. I think some guys or some people, some fans might have been a little worried, what's the team going to look like without those stars, that we had on this team last year. But I mean, just go back to the Alabama game. Like none of those guys played. Like Ernest played, Mason didn't play, like Josiah didn't play, Will didn't play. Like, and we did what we had to do to get the win. And I'm just super proud of the guys that were in. Cam Brand starting to get some action. Ike, like all those guys. Like it doesn't matter who's in there. I think that's one of the things. For the University of Michigan, like you better be ready when you're out there. You prepare for it. Like. Second string, third string, like it takes one guy to go down, like you're in there. So just them preparing and just so super proud of them. And, obviously like now going to the off season, some guys are starting to feel themselves, getting all right, I did this, let's go. Getting excited for the season. Everybody has a new chance now in spring ball and then obviously going into fall camp and into the season. Just super excited what they're going to do. But, defense wins championships. We saw it with Philly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Shout out.
We're going to be all right. Shout out Keeks.
Winning a natty back to back with the Super Bowl.
Back with the Super Bowl.
No,
that's awesome.
Not bad.
I had a Valiant branded Trevor Keegan trading card in my office because you probably don't see it because you know him and you've seen him in person. These guys are just like, you look like Trevor Keegan. I'm like, no, I don't. And so they gave me a trading card and it's in my office.
Sweet.
I love it. Okay, so last couple questions here. One that I have for you is just, you don't do everything in 2024 that you guys wanted to do, right? You didn't achieve your goals of beating Michigan State, beating Ohio State, winning the bowl game, right?
Yep.
But don't make it back to the Big Ten championship. Don't make it to the CFP, unfortunately. What are you guys doing differently, or what is there something differently that you guys are looking to do in this off season to make sure that you guys come out and achieve all those goals this year?
Yeah. Honestly, I think everybody really has the 8-5. Like that's not acceptable. Some teams in other conferences, or maybe even in our conference, 8-5, that's good. It's bowl eligible, 1 year bowl game. Like that's not Michigan. National championships, like that's the standard here at Michigan. And I think we got to remind ourselves of that each and every single day, that 8-5, like that's not acceptable. That's not good. Obviously, like, winning against Ohio State and all that stuff, like Alabama, Michigan State, and all those teams, like that's great. But we also got beat by Texas and Oregon, who were in the playoffs. So it's like, you can't just focus on the good. Like you got to focus on the bad to make that good, and then we're gonna be all right. But really just go as hard as possible each and every single day. If it's workouts, conditioning, practice, and just really push ourselves, but push each other most importantly. And that's when we come back to, the player-led teams and those teams taking the next step. And that's what we're planning on doing.
I love it. And then the last question I've got, I don't know, Tanner, if you've got one too, but last one I have for you is he's jet lagged. He's like ready. He's gonna go.
I've been traveling all week in beautiful Omaha, Nebraska. It was cold. I'm tired. Right before we started recording, I just got back from the airport. So my brain is not working.
And we're recording this on Valentine's Day. He's still got to go out and get his flowers.
Yeah.
Just airing my laundry out. Claudia's going to know now.
I know. Well, there's no way you could have. So it's not really your.
No, it's fair. Yeah, it's fair.
Shout out to you, Marlin, for already taking care of it.
There you go. That was responsible.
But for you specifically, so we've talked about Colston. You definitely especially in the Michigan offense, you guys run 2 tight ends a lot, right? So you've gotten your playing time, but let's be honest, you haven't been the number 1 guy yet to this point, right? And it's really not anything against you because you're going up against the top 15 pick, right? Like it's it's more of a compliment to Colston than anything. But now, you are approaching this offseason and going into spring ball as the guy, right? Like you're the number 1 option for this Michigan offense. And you've got guys pushing you, the younger guys, Hogan Hansen, you got Brady there. Obviously he's a little bit different situation, but you've got young, talented guys that are coming in that are pushing you as well. Is there a different approach from you when it's, even just showing up to a lift every day, showing up to practice, showing up to meetings? Is there a different approach when it's like, okay, I am the dude now. I got to set myself apart.
Yeah. I think there definitely is, some people may, kind of not want to say it, but I think there definitely is, knowing that you're the guy now and the team counts on you, whatever, the record at the end of the year is going to be, that's really, pretty much depending on what are you willing to do for that team. So just knowing that I'm the guy now is awesome, having that honor to be the guy at the University of Michigan, which I still think is tight end U. I never really sat behind anybody that's not playing in the NFL right now.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah. So I think for me, that was also one of the biggest things, throughout the 2 years that I didn't really play or, didn't start here at the University of Michigan. Just reminding myself, those guys that I'm sitting behind, those are not bad football players at all. They're making a couple $1 million a year. They're doing all right. So just reminding myself of that. But yeah, like you said, going into the lifts, really, engaging with the other guys. I'm not the young guy anymore. I'm an older guy. The team's going to count on me. So really just being there for the younger guys now, getting them adjusted to, the Michigan culture and how we do things. here in Michigan. That's really one of my focuses right now, just helping out the younger guys and the transfers as much as I can.
I love it.
I got one. I came up with
All right, there we go.
We talked a lot of football, Marlin. What are you doing? I mean, I know you guys start spring ball in about a month, and you're going through workouts now, but you got a weekend night just chilling. Like, what are you doing? You playing some video games? You playing 2K? You watching TV? Like, what are you doing to relax? Take your mind off of stuff. Take your mind off of school and football.
Yeah, I mean, there's really just two things. I'm either getting on the game on NCAA, playing with my boy, who is my high school roommate, who plays quarterback at Albany now, or if I get the chance to hang out with the girl, go out to dinner, watch a movie or whatever. So we're kind of the two top options. Yeah.
Follow-up question. One spot in Ann Arbor for Valentine's Day tonight. You don't need a reservation wherever you want to go.
Oof.
Where are you going?
A lot of people don't know about it. Salvas owner, the Dixboro Project.
Dude, Dixboro, the Boro, yes.
Yeah.
I have no idea, and I live here. So
It's out.
You got to check it out.
Yeah.
It's out on,
10 minutes away.
Yeah, it's like in the boons, kind of. It's like right on the outskirts, but yeah, Saba owns it, and it is, dude, that place is
sweet. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. That's a good call.
I like it was outside the box. You didn't, come in with like the chop.
Not the classic.
Yeah, I respect that.
I mean, the number of guys that have just said straight hen for like everything, I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
To be honest, I've been there. I think I went there for business breakfast once, and I was just kind of like, man,
I'm not.
all right. It's good. I mean, but like, the way people talk about it, I thought it was like Michelin star. It was solid. But...
We do have. I mean, you're from the South. We do now have a Raising Cane's in my.
I know. I've seen that. I gotta go check that out.
Yeah.
See, it might be quicker to just go to Lansing though. But these lines are ridiculous.
I did sit in line the other day. I went when I came back from the Super Bowl, and I sat in line for like 30 minutes. And but it was like once you're in line in the car, like you can't get out. So you just
yeah. I mean, I wish we had a Chick-fil-A up here closer than the Eastern campus. It'd be nice if we had a.
We got Slick Chickens now though, over by like Zeeb.
I don't even know what it is.
It's like it's just, I mean, it's chicken, it's just like a fried chicken tender place. I would say it's very similar to Cane's, maybe just like different sauces, but like chicken kind of reminds me of Cane's. It's solid.
We got Zaxby's up here. What you got?
I know about Zaxby's.
Yeah.
What
is your favorite dish back from home in Germany?
Schnitzel.
What's that?
That's
like
pretty much like, no, it's pretty much really like fried, really thin cut chicken, almost like chicken cutlets, kind of the German way instead of the Italian way.
That's
a lot of meat and potatoes.
We have a couple German restaurants. Have you checked those out? Is there anything worth?
No. So when I was in high school, I took a visit down to the Forbidden City, starting with C, and they had a really, really good German restaurant. Apparently, it was horrible. I've never tried German food in the U.S. ever again. I'm not planning on it.
Okay, perfect. I didn't
Once I get back in town, man.
Yeah, I asked that. And I was like, I hope we're not going to just crap on any Ann Arbor restaurants here. So that's good. That's good that it was in, Cincinnati. Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like German food is just like very like home hearty meals. Like,
yep.
Very still.
You got to play soccer for 18 hours a day to stay thin out there, I guess.
Have to.
Especially when you're going to the pub for a pint, starting at like, what are they? They start you at like 13 years old there, I feel.
Oh, yeah. They also started at around 10 a.m.
I love it.
Well, we do. When you guys are getting ready to play, you guys are warming up. I'm warming up, beer, hard liquor. Yeah.
Some Trulies, some Ale IPAs, some Sun Cruisers. We've got it all. So, yeah.
I'm playing.
All right, man. Well, appreciate you coming on. I'm super excited. I feel like I've known you since you've been here now, and I'm very excited for you to get the opportunity that you have in front of you here for this year. And so I know you're going to crush it. Anytime you want to come back on the pod and talk to the people, you're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Just let me know. I'll be here. Appreciate you guys for having me, man.
All right. For us,
make sure you get those flowers.
Yes, make sure you get the flowers.
I will.
Where can people follow you at?
Instagram, just Marlin Klein 17. That's pretty much where I'm most active on. A lot of big Twitter, TikTok, any of that stuff. So
No dances on TikTok.
none of that. Not the tight end room. We don't do that.
I have to say, I do like when I go on TikTok, like I see other teams like dancing in the locker room. I don't see you guys doing that. So thank you.
We don't.
It's too gritty. All gritty.
That's not what Michigan is. So.
Exactly. All right. For us, you can follow us at Blue by 90 on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Blue by 90 Podcast on YouTube and blueby90.com. We appreciate you. Go Blue.
Go Blue.
Go Blue.